Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give everybody about 2 minutes to join and then we will get started. So just hang out and we'll get started soon. Welcome, everybody. We're going to give people about 1 more minute to get started. All right, time to get started. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about empowering ERGs. So how are we boosting engagement and how are we involving volunteerism to do so? First off, we really want to hear from you all. What are you looking to get out of today's webinar? So go ahead and answer the poll. Tell us what's most relevant to you. Couple more seconds. All right, so it looks like number one thing for people is actionable strategies to boost ERG participation, as well as best practices for sustaining long-term ERG involvement. We'll definitely be covering those today. We'll also share some real-world case studies, hear from our wonderful panelists today, what's working for them, as well as some insights on how you can enhance your ERG engagement through volunteering. Right, so for our agenda today, welcome and introductions first up. Then we'll be going through the importance of ERGs specifically for workplace inclusion. Then we'll be looking at volunteering as a valuable tool to boost your ERG engagement. Then we'll get into some best practices and enablers all throughout, hearing from our wonderful panel today. And then if we have time, we'll get into Q&A. If not, we'll share some of those responses with everybody after the call. To introduce myself, I'm your moderator today. I'm Missy Peck. I use she, they pronouns. I'm our Senior Director of Global Engagement here at Goodera, and I've been in the CSR industry for about 10 years and always been super involved personally in Pride ERG leadership. Right, so talking about some ERG trends. So why is this a super important topic? So ERGs are regularly one of the most common topics that we talk to our client base about. I want to share some really good stats here that show that a lot of companies are super invested in ERGs. So out of Fortune 500 companies, 90% of them have ERGs. Most of those have more than 3 ERGs. I think 10 to 11 tends to be a really popular number. 61% of organizations have ERGs that are 0 to 5 years old. And over 50% of companies have a VP person or higher involved as part of their DEI committee. So lots of good leadership engagement across the board. And then this was kind of a surprising stat, actually. So 41% of companies in some shape or form compensate their ERGs. 92% of those are saying they're compensating at $1,500 per ERG lead or more. But yeah, next I want to hear from our social impact leaders and get some introductions going. Asias, I'll hand it over to you first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Asias Warreta. My pronouns are he, him, and I lead inclusion, belonging, and community impact at CSA Insurance Group. And I'm joining you today from Silver Spring, Maryland, the unceded land of the Anacostan and Piscataway people. I love chocolate, I love coffee, and I'm a newly minted endurance athlete. So you can catch me on the trails, and you can also catch me on our amazing coffee shop scene here in the DC area.
And Isis, if you want to go next.
Sure. My name is Isis Miller. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the Senior Manager of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging for Zscaler. I'm located in Oakland, California. And since Asias is telling us about themselves a little bit, I guess plant parent, dog dad, Beyonce Stan, and Trekkie. I think those are my top. So,
It's an
and I
awesome
will,
combination.
it's an interesting combination. And I will hand it over to Grace.
Amazing intros. I'm Grace Kim. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a program manager at the Atlassian Foundation, and I work very closely with ERGs. I work closely with the global ERGs and empower them to start giving and volunteering campaigns part of their programming. So love that I'm here. Obviously, I'm a dog mom from my picture, as you see on the screen. I'm based in San Diego and I play tennis. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, thank you all for the super warm introductions. Next up, I really want to give you all a moment to shine here and tell us about your programs. So I will let Asias go first.
Thank you. So at CSA Insurance Group, we're really committed to tying or making more clear connections between our community impact work and also our inclusion and belonging work internally. For us, what happens in the community very much impacts our people at work, and our people at work are also our members, right? And our community members, and also just our members when it comes to our business around insurance. So to that end, we really focus our strategy around creating and supporting equitable, vibrant, and resilient communities at equity in the equity space. We're looking at social and economic inclusion. Resilience as an insurance company, we're very much dedicated to disaster recovery and resilience, really recognizing that opportunity and a disaster is when there could be a lot of catastrophe, right? So how do we reduce the opportunity for that much more damage to happen when an event occurs? And these days, there's a lot of events happening all the time. So really working across difference, across socioeconomic conditions to build the ability of our communities to be that much more resilient and to also build and recover in a way that's sustainable in the long term. And then vibrancy, looking at what does it look like to support our community members thriving, right? It's oftentimes in our work, it's easier, or there's so many pressing needs around immediate needs, right? So how can we also address those immediate needs and also invite folks and provide access to things that we might consider leisurely, like the arts, right? Like museum access, things that really improve quality of life. So with that, in the vibrancy realm, we're looking at that. As it relates to CSA, to employee resource groups, rather, we have multiple, all the traditional ones that you can think about. As a whole, in our organization, nearly 30% of our employees are involved in an inclusion group. In addition to inclusion groups, we have what we call culture groups. And so we have community impact champions that are curating events and really helping us ensure that we're meeting the needs of our community and that they're actually in the front line and providing access and inviting all parts of the CSA community to engage in a volunteerism opportunity, particularly as an organization that's leaned into a dispersed work environment. We're all over the country. So we really lean in on our culture, our community impact champions, rather, to really bring volunteerism to the forefront of where people are these days.
Thank you. I love how thoughtfully interwoven ERGs and DEIB and community impact are in all of these. Like you kind of see the components all reflected in each other. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, next up, I want to pass it to Isis with Zscaler.
Yes. So we have actually retooled our community facing programs to really expand employee participation. I think what we're thinking about there is how can we really put forward what our employees care about the most and double down and invest in that. So a little bit about what we've been doing sort of over the past year. We've organized like more than 50 of global events as part of our employee volunteering program. We've launched our community leader program, which supports what our employees are passionate about, so they get to organize volunteer events in their own community supported by Zscaler. We've launched a volunteer grants program to really recognize employee volunteering with funding that's, again, correlated to the amount of hours that they serve. They're able to donate and double down on those initiatives. We provide year-round flexible donation matches for, again, the things that they're caring about. We've held donation match campaigns to support wildfire relief in Maui and address food insecurity. And we've supported nonprofits that, again, resonate with what what our employees in our ERGs care about. So we really think of what we're doing as like, what do you care about? We're listening to our community, and we lead with what they're interested in. So that's a little bit about what we're doing over at Zscaler and our volunteering and giving initiatives.
I love the leading with listening. That's such an important part, especially when you're growing your programs as fast as you are. And we'll jump over to Grace with Atlassian.
Awesome, thank you. So Atlassian Foundation, just to give you a little context, we're all about unleashing the potential of social impact teams, meaning like nonprofits, social enterprises. And what we want to do is empower them to change lives through education. So to this day, 53,000 hours were put into nonprofits from our Atlassians. Atlassians are given actually 5 days, 40 hours to volunteer, give. And we also give $1,000 USD in donation matching to their local communities. A big thing that we do also is using a combination of funding people, our products, our practices. How are we using our resources to help social impact teams become more effective, collaborative, so they can do their mission critical work? So how does that connect to ERGs? Is we currently have, if we have the next slide, we are proud that over 20% of Atlassians now participate in one or more of our 9 communities. So meaning all of these 20% of Atlassians also participate in giving and volunteering campaigns, events, and integrating that to their missions and their ERGs. So we love that the Atlassian Foundation can partner with each ERG so that we can give back to their local communities.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Grace. All right, jumping into our next poll. All right, so looking to our audience here, what do you believe to be the most valuable outcome of ERGs? A few more seconds. All right, so probably not surprisingly, number one choice from you all is fostering inclusion. So 52% of you all voted for fostering inclusion. Shortly behind that is fostering in-group communities specifically, and increased employee intention, which I think is a really important lagging indicator of excellent ERG groups. So perfect segue, our next topic is about inclusion. So the importance of ERGs in workplace inclusion. I first want to turn to our experts here and get some of their advice on how this has shown up in their organization. So Grace, what do you believe to be the most valuable impact of ERGs for your company culture, but also for your communities that you work with?
Yeah, and I'll answer that with like a foundation perspective. So I've partnered with the global ERG chairs in planning their events throughout and integrating social impact events in their programming. And one of the reasons why they approach us is engagement, right? So sometimes there is low participation rate, but how are we also bringing in community within Atlassian by also giving back? So there's like a twofold. And we've noticed that there has been an increase in participation when there's kind of purpose and giving back to their community. So I think there's always purpose in those meetings, but being able to use what their purpose is in those meetings and giving it out, right? So taking action behind those meetings that they regularly have.
So basically giving people a chance to roll up their sleeves and be part of impacting that broader community.
Exactly. And since we are like a remote first company as well. So we're also encouraging those global chairs, those members, to go straight to their local communities, right? So it doesn't have to be the nonprofits that the ERG chairs present, but we really empower them to find those nonprofits that they really resonate with, and then invite other remote Atlassians to join.
I love the unblocking of that. Like, social impact teams are never giants. So really empowering those people who are passionate to go do what they're doing with your support, I think, is a key to unlocking broader impact and just making them really happy and fulfilled.
Exactly.
Asia's question for you next. How do ERGs foster not just allyship, but also intercultural learning across the different groups at your org?
Yeah. Um, you know, as Isis and Grace, and even you, Missy, have said, our ERG culture groups and just the individuals a part of them are experts in their lived experience,
Mhm.
as individuals and their lived experience as members of a collective. And so when I think about the importance of ERG in the context of workplace inclusion, it's really giving them the space for in-group healing, in-group connection. And I think of like that in group space being really important, as it's a place to recharge in spaces where you might feel like you're giving a lot of energy and there's no place for
Mm.
you to just calm down a bit. And I think that in and of itself is huge value. It's huge value in terms of the kind of workplace that we create, the culture, but I also think it has a reverberating impact on our communities as a whole, where we're really signaling being yourself, being in community with others is enough and is really important to your long-term success, as opposed to this like grind, work, right? And curating ERG engagements as a opportunity for other people's learning exclusively and not
Mhm.
necessarily in group learning, in group healing, because there is a lot of diversity that happens within in group space as well. And I just want to spend some time to recognize that, because oftentimes we engage ERGs from this extractionist space of like trying to get them to do stuff that builds the business or builds our own departmental strategy and doesn't really honor them as full humans who are in charge and who know their needs, and actually their existence and them being in community with each other is more than enough as a value to the organization and to the community without anything else. And in community impact space, we also know the best way to do something is to get people who know what it is, who know where the opportunities are, who know where the challenges are, give them the resource and guide them and support them in moving things forward. And that's something that we've really leaned on, and we've leaned on it as an organization. Historically, we've prided ourselves in having 100% volunteerism, and we have that. We had that, right? Right now, we're about 50% volunteerism, which is really great. And as departments or as organizations, the way that we signal what's important to us or our goals signal our priority. And so we had to reimagine, what does it look like to shift from 100% volunteerism, that being the goal, to thinking about the impact we're having in our communities. And that shift really impacted in the ways that we changed our program. So for example, we offer 3-to-1 match to aligned nonprofit organizations in March and November. We offer 2-to-1 matching all year round to our grantees, our aligned nonprofits, and all year round 1-to-1 matching to nonprofits as a whole, as long as they don't support hate and all the traditional things that you don't necessarily want your company supporting. And we did that because, one, we have a modest giving budget and we really wanted to center and curate our engagement towards impact, right? But what we also did was start to give our employees volunteerism credit. We give them $10 per hour that they volunteer. And in doing that, what we're saying is like, hey, there's causes that are really important to you, and we support you spending time and going out there, and we're going to reward you for volunteering. And that money can go into giving to our aligned nonprofits or just overall nonprofits. Another way of saying, we know you know your communities. We know you know where the needs are, and we trust you and we support you in actually going out there and being an active citizen and a good steward of the company money while providing the guidance, right? So I think that's a subtle shift that goes towards, again, impact, trusting that people are experts in their lived realities and curating resources in a way that supports them, but also moves the company's strategy. And I connect this to what we said earlier, right? I think when we do community impact work, we really have to connect our work to the structural inequities that are there. Oftentimes we think of volunteerism as like, oh, I'm going to go do something for myself. It's an act of benevolence, right? You're sacrificing something in some ways, your time and all of those things. But honestly, all of it is connected, right? We're all connected. All the issues are connected. And so, how do we get people to not look at it as an act of benevolence, but really an investment in themselves, an investment in their communities? And in doing that and reframing that way, that's where the intercultural learning comes from, by spending time with each other, by understanding each other's experiences and lived reality. And I say that not only across like identities, but within identities, because again, we don't have same experiences. We're all intersectional beings, and the way we experience system is different. And in addition to having guided learning, just going out there, rebuilding a home, hearing from the people's story and experiences, asking each other's question has been the way we do that. And just because you're volunteering together doesn't mean learning's happening. And so what we've really focused on is having debrief sessions after, where we're talking about our experiences and we're bringing in elements of our aid inclusion behaviors that focus on taking perspective taking, giving grace, having an intersectional lens, and really thinking about how is this showing up for us here, right? And we do that in our volunteerism, in our pro bono engagement, and our individual ones. And we're continuing to think about that and really test and learn as we move forward, because as we all know, it's a journey and not a destination. But so far, it's really been heartening to see our strategy come to life in a way that brings both diversity and inclusion and community impact together in a really transformative way.
It's such a wonderfully complex, but somehow simple still view of how these programs can work. And I love the focus on the agency and the trust, and transforming it from this is what our company is doing for these causes, but this is what our company is doing to support these groups, and this is what they're doing for their own causes. I mean, I think that intersectionality piece too is coming more out in the forefront, and really recognizing, like, yes, we have these groups for these people that have these similar things about themselves, but everybody is a cross section of a bunch of different things. So just bringing people together to listen and understand from each other. And as you said, giving grace, super important. Isis, question for you. Can you share any outcomes with us that really show the impact of what strong ERGs can do for employee engagement that you've seen in your work?
Yes. I think one that comes to mind is most recently our ERGs have partnered with our talent acquisition team. And so one thing, we are very transparent in that we are new on our DEIB journey. And I want to lead with that because I think more people should just be transparent and honest with where they are in their journey, and not sell a bill of goods to folks and say, you know, we're so diverse, we're so inclusive. That is not what is happening within our organization, but we are curious and we are learning and we are doing that work. And so I'll say that to say we are partnering with our talent acquisition team and our ERGs to have this really beautiful program where our ERGs are able to recommend folks from their community to these roles, and they get a really white glove experience. And so if you do say that, you know, you were recommended by an ERG person, you are actually set up to talk with an additional recruiter, you're set up to speak with someone who knows about the role, you get a little bit more, because as we know from from folks from marginalized communities, they oftentimes don't have the same access. They maybe haven't been in these technical roles before. So having someone to really speak to understand what that process is going to look like, so you're not walking in there with the same nerves and that imposter syndrome that we know often comes with this, has been a game changer for us. And so having done that partnership, what the results of that were, we ended up receiving over 800 referrals from our ERG community.
Wow.
It's insane. When we first did that, I thought the numbers were wrong. I literally was like, wait. You didn't say 800. It was literally over 800 referrals collectively from all of our ERGs, of which we now have 8. When we did this referral program, we had 6 at the time, which resulted in 30 new hires from diverse populations. So it seems like a small number, but for us, that's actually a very big deal. And it was the first time we've ever done that. So it was a pilot. We definitely found there were some things we could improve about it. There's more data we could have collected, but overall, it was just a beautiful story to tell with what can happen when you're tapping into your ERG's community, because they are passionate, they do want to help, and they of course want to see more diversity and representation within the organization. And so yeah, that was just a powerful thing that that has come out most recently. Like I said, I just got these numbers about a month ago, and we're still refining and fine tuning that, but I'm so encouraged to see what more we can do and how we can continue to change the face of the organization as we start to empower our ERGs and let them know, like, hey, we care about you, we care about your communities, and we want to bring them into the fold as well.
That's such a huge number, especially for a first go on anything. Did you feel that across your ERGs and your ERG leaders? Did they feel more seen through that?
Absolutely, absolutely, and they get to bring your friends, right? Like I want to bring my
Yeah,
friends in.
yeah.
So, like bringing in their communities and bringing in their folks, and we also highlighted that. So we used our screens within our offices to broadcast those folks. Like this is the person we're bringing in and who it was recommended by. So we're actually spreading the word around what we're doing, who brought this person into the fold, and a little bit
Mhm.
about who they were. So they felt welcome as they were walking in the door, and they again, the person who recommended them got a little bit of kudos as well.
Way to set the tone. It's so often underestimated, like how much the imposter syndrome is amplified when you start adding in those marginalized groups. And some people have multiple of those things going on. I love not just hiring diversely, but starting from the very beginning, making people feel welcome on their specific terms. That's amazing. I know you said you're newer. One more question for you. I so sorry. I know you said you're newer in your DEIB journey. Can you share a little bit about how ERGs specifically have helped to shape that?
Well, I will say from my boss, who's our global head of DIB, when she
Mhm.
like wrote our DIB strategy, she was thinking about our ERGs, and that's what I love about it because it's reflected in our strategy. They're mentioned throughout the entirety of our DIB strategy, and they're thought about and they're intentional. They're not a nice to have. They're not a tack on. They're not like they are integral to our DIB strategy, and they really hold it up. And so, for example, I'll share. When it comes to like our benefits, for instance, we partner with our benefits team as well as part of our DIB strategy, make sure that our benefits are inclusive. They give feedback on our benefits every single year. We meet with our ERGs. Each individual ERG has a session with our benefits folks to understand, are these benefits serving you? Are these your needs? Are they being met? And those changes are made. And we announce when changes are made as well. So it's a full story that we're telling around like, hi, we heard you. This is the change that we've made according to your feedback, and this is how we've addressed that. And we don't get it right immediately. As we know, benefits is very tricky, and you can only do things within
Mhm.
a certain time frame. It is tricky, but we have made incremental changes throughout that have been game changers for folks. I think one that comes to mind for me that was out, it's actually very personal for me. As a non-binary trans person, one of the things that we did in my previous organization that was really, really cool was that there was a gap in coverage for trans folks to receive gender affirming care. And we brought that up with our benefits team, and they were like, look, we can't change our insurance plan. Like that we are in contract with these folks. That is not something we can do. But let's think about how we can work around it. And so one thing that we did was build a fund, which I forget the name of exactly, but it was like a life, I think we called it Life Happens Fund or whatever. So it was a fund that you can tap into, let's just say, your house was flooded, or something drastic happened. There was an additional fund that you can tap into for things that weren't included in your insurance, and I was able to tap into that fund for receiving top surgery, and that was included as a part of this fund. And so that was a way that we worked with our benefits team. We saw that there was a need that couldn't be addressed through our traditional avenues, and we created a buffer. We created a stand-in that would help support folks in times of need, that was I was able to use for myself, but other people were able to use it for all sorts of life circumstances. And so that to me was just a huge win. And it's also a legacy that we leave behind for folks who come after us into that organization,
Yeah.
that is still there. And I think about it all the time as like we were at the forefront of changing something so huge that we could like change a life. And so, yeah, I don't even know if that was the question that you asked me.
No, that was perfect.
Now I'm rambling. But yes, that one really stands out to me as like how we're thinking about partnering with the business and partnering with our ERGs to think about what their real, to Silas's point, their lived experience and how we can support them as whole human beings.
That's, thank you so much for sharing that. And being someone in a leadership position with these types of programs who can proactively make these changes and see people and show up for people and give them the opportunity to have a voice in it, rather than leave it to them to raise and fight and push for themselves, just tells your employees that we're here for you, you are who you are, and we love exactly the way you are, which is exactly what these types of programs are meant for. So yes, you answered the question perfectly. Thank you. All right, so you all have shared with us what good looks like really for ERGs. So a really cool stat that we found, so kind of shockingly actually. So when we look at employees telling us, do they feel included in the workplace? Not surprisingly, employees that are in effective ERGs, 83% of them, yes, they do feel included in the workplace. Employees who are not in ERGs, 75%. But even lower than that, so employees that are in ineffective ERGs, so perhaps they see there are ERGs, but they're not actually moving the needle on what matters to me. So what's the next option for me? It actually does more harm than good to have ineffective ERGs. So super important to really tap into the best practices that you all have shared. Obviously fostering inclusion, improving diversity, welcoming authenticity at work. Those are some cornerstones of a good ERG, but where you start to see them really proving their effectiveness is you're boosting the visibility of underrepresented groups, not just the visibility of them there, but also gaining the perspective that they can bring to the table. And then two really important ones that Isis touched on just a little bit with hiring plans, improving the retention of underrepresented groups. So we have marginalized groups here, we have a diverse workforce, and we're retaining them. They're happy. But arguably more importantly is supporting career advancement. So they're here, they're happy, and they see a path for them that we've helped them to see to continue their growth with our company. Next, we want to talk a little bit about volunteering as a tool to boost ERG engagement. So I know you all have alluded to how this taps into your programs. Want to hear from everybody here. How frequently do your ERGs participate in volunteering activities? And this can be across all of your ERGs, it doesn't have to be for each one individually. Few more seconds. All right, so it looks like some of us are really just getting started. So 41% of you say rarely, not yet. That's okay, we can build. Quarterly is the most common number for people who have gotten started with this. And then annually and monthly are falling right behind that. So I want to share a story with y'all, story time. So we have a story of potential disengagement here. So really cool study of 1,000 professionals found that 58% of people were actually unfamiliar with the concept of an ERG. Now, thinking about the fact that 90% of Fortune 500 companies have ERGs, so many people may be unaware of what they are, what they can do for them, or how they can interact with them as an ally or a member. Of people in that group that were studied, 50% of them who were ERG members already said they seldom attend ERG gatherings, while 79% of those said they'd really love to have at least one ERG gathering per month. And if you're looking at these numbers like I am, the math is not quite mathing there. So 50% of people say they're not really going to ERG gatherings. 79% say they wish that there were at least one. So I think what these people may be telling us is either they're not receiving value from what's there now, or there could potentially be like a structural programmatic barrier to get them involved in the gatherings that may already be taking place. And what this really sums up to for us is, this may date me a little bit, but if you build it, they will come. It's not a field of dreams type situation with ERGs. Definitely you want to stand up a good charter, you want to stand up a good structure, but intent does not equal impact here. So you need to continue to build thoughtfully into these programs and really support the people who are leading these ERGs on a consistent basis. And we know volunteering to be a super valuable tool for boosting ERG engagement. So you have your volunteering events that you're doing as a company, you have your ERGs. I think all three of you shared a component of this in your spotlights, how you're interweaving your ERG programs and your volunteering programs. But it helps people to get really connected to the purpose. So Grace, I know you shared it's so critical for your ERGs for people to get involved, whether it's in a donation campaign or a volunteering campaign, to actually get their hands on helping people in that broader community that their ERG reflects. Also promotes cross ERG collaboration. Sias, I know you shared a little bit about that, as well as increasing ERG visibility and impact. I really want to hear from you all on how volunteering shows up in your ERGs. Isis, we'll start with you. What types of volunteering have been most effective in driving ERG engagement?
Okay, so if it's story time, I'll tell
Let's tell the
it.
story.
I'm thinking about the most impactful experience, and I've had a lot of them. Like I love doing, especially around the holidays, I love doing like the toy giveaways. Like I just have fun. Like it's fun for me. I get to connect with the community, I get to connect with my people outside of work. Love that, right? But I'm thinking about one in particular, where we did a year-long volunteer engagement, and it was where we adopted a school in here in Oakland. And in this program, throughout the year, we had certain touch points with the students. And so we would do things like help paint the school. We would raise donations and collect donations for like when they were going back to school, so backpacks and things of that nature. We also went and like reviewed their projects with them. We helped them build their LinkedIn presence. So we were like building a whole relationship, and it was a particular class as well that we were really working with throughout. And so we got to really get to know the students, we got to get to know the teachers and understand what their needs were, and just build this beautiful dynamic relationship throughout the entire year. We also donated money, of course, because schools are underfunded, especially here in Oakland in the Bay Area. But the thing that really came out of that for me that stands out the most was there was one day where we were there and they had a project to work on where they're helping them with their project. And I noticed that the teacher, who was normally this just very jovial person, she was just like such a big personality, such a sweet person. And this day she was just like bummed, and it was so noticeable in her energy. And I was like, yo, what's up? Like, you're so off today. Like, your energy's different. What's up with you? What's going on? And she took me to the side and she was like, one of my students, I just found out that, well, two of her students, they were siblings. They were homeless. They were on the verge of homelessness. They just lost their home. They were living out of their car. She had just found out about that. And it was just heartbreaking because we gotten to know those students as well. Um, so it just like bothered my spirit. Like it just, I couldn't sit with that. And so I went back to our ERGs, and our ERGs were the one who were doing the adopting of the school. And I was like, y'all, we gotta raise some money. Like I know this is outside of the scope of this like engagement that we have, but like it's on my heart. Like these kids need us. And so we started our own little grassroots campaign of like raising a GoFundMe for these students. And it was going really, really well. So what ended up happening from that was our CEO got involved and found out what was going on.
Wow.
He just like read it on Slack and was like, wait, I whatever you raise, I'll match it. So that happened. And then somehow word got out even past that, and the news found out. And so all of a sudden, we were raising thousands of dollars for this one family. It was insane. So the news ended up coming out. We got the Golden State Warriors ended up donating. They ended up getting like their her prom dress was covered. Like all of these people were coming out from the community to help this family. We ended up raising $35,000 for this family. And we're able to like get them in a home. We got them a financial planner so they could continue to sustain. So because throwing money at people can be a little tricky, so we wanted to make sure they were able to sustain. But they got the not only short-term support but long-term support from other folks in the community that showed up for them to support this family. And this is, I want to say, about 4 years ago, and we're still in touch with this family and making sure that they're doing well. And all it took was like being in your community, talking to people. I think there's also something to be said about asking people how they are, and actually listening is a big one, and like letting them have that space to talk about what's going on and noticing. So we learned so much in like in this experience, it still moves me, and I still can't believe that happened. But it was just through this long-term engagement of us volunteering with the school that we of course helped the students that we initially set out to help, and of course helped the school with the donations that we were able to provide. But we actually got to change one family's life, and like I think that was honestly the best thing I've ever done in my career. And so when it comes to volunteering and ERGs, I could not be a bigger proponent of that, because I've seen what can happen when you go boots in the community and do
Mhm.
that. So yeah, that's my story.
That's incredible. And if you like think about like your experience as an employee of Zscaler and extrapolate that across your ERG members and leads and how you empower them to go do their thing and all those moments where they get to feel that too. Like, hey, I felt this passion to support these people that I care about, and my company showed up and helped me figure out the
And
way to
it
get
gives you a
started.
sense of purpose, like it
Yeah.
outside of like your job, right? Like I am not my job. I love what I do, but I am not my job. But like it's yeah, like in that moment I got to be my whole self and the person that I want to show up as in the world, because that's more important to me. And it connected us all back to that shared purpose. No matter what we did for our day job, no matter what ERGs, it didn't matter. We were there in the community, and it like we still talk about that thing. It connected us to our organization. It connected us to our leadership, who was like, I'm going to give out of my pocket. Like all of those things made us truly profoundly engage with one another, but also engage with the organization, right? Like, and it's like, as leaders, I can't say enough. Like, when you have your folks who are really doing that good work and they see you jumping on board to also do that and support them, you're going to get that loyalty. It's talking retention, right? Like, that makes me want to stay at a company where I know my leader gives a shit, excuse my French, like about the
Yeah.
things that, like, I care about. Like, that's the type of leader I'm going to follow.
Yeah. And the way that you're lit up right now, that's how we want, that's how we
I'm
want our employees.
also high on caffeine, so
Yeah.
that's part of it too. But,
Well,
but yes,
Asias, I want to hear from you on how volunteering has shaped your ERG communities.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I love that story.
Such a good
That's it.
story.
Yeah, very much so. Um, you know, for us, I have to situate what I'm about to say in the context of COVID. COVID changed mostly everyone, if not everyone, every organization, how they think about work. It is through COVID and because of COVID that we really leaned into a dispersed work environment, right? We went from really being based in 7 of our hubs, 7 locations, physical locations, to now being all throughout the continental United States. And within that, there are areas that were highly situated. What that meant for our ERGs was that we were no longer local, right? We had multiple chapters of our 12 employee resource groups, and they were location based. They saw each other, they can walk by, they can communicate with each other, they had newsletters, they were in a shared space, right? What that meant is that then they could curate. ERG engagements right there that people can access. And what that meant for volunteerism is that we brought Rome to them, if you will, right? Like we could curate volunteer events within the location. COVID changed all of that, right? Shared experiences became virtual while we were in the thick of it, right? And more, we're leaning into in-person events. And what that meant for us is that our ERGs were really trying to figure out, like, okay, what does this mean for us? Like, how do we curate events? How do we think about connection? And sometimes in the home environment, you have so many priorities showing up in your face, right? Like you could be at work and some parts, I won't say muted, but the volume of your home life wasn't as loud. Now, work is loud because it's in front of you. Your home life is loud because it's in front of you. Everything is in front of you. And you really have to prioritize. So, engaging on these things that you know is a value add for you, but when in the list of your priorities between that hungry child or hungry dog and like this deliverable that you have, it gets really difficult to do that. And so we really had to step back and think about, well, how do we do this? What does this look like? And in the beginning, we really we're like, okay, let's give our people grace in that at this point they're trying to figure out what it is. So let's lean back a little bit on this is what we need you to do. This is what you need to deliver. Like, what are you trying to focus on? And say, like, hey, we are in a space where none of us know what's happening, what's to come. And what really could be useful for us is community. And so we really try to encourage our ERGs to not necessarily deliver on events. We don't even have to like push them because they own it in that way. Like they'll push themselves. So the work became, hey, let's step back a little bit and let's like build community. Let's just connect to connect, right? Without a little
Like that in-group community.
That in-group community, that connection. It could be across difference, but let's just meet and connect. And that really evolved to be lunch and learns kind of engagement that a lot of our ERGs do, right? And so beyond having our monthly meetings and engagements, there started to be a little bit more pop-up more than ever, where folks are actually connecting in this way, and not necessarily just through Teams or through Slacks, but a time that really connected them. In the midst of that, volunteerism became one of the ways that they really leaned in and built community, right? And so with Goodera, it is through COVID and in the times of COVID that we partner with Goodera to support us in having virtual volunteerism. And what we did was really supported our employee resource groups and trying to give them a little bit of grace and support in not knowing how to curate events or what this new workplace looked like in terms of COVID and virtual, and said, hey, we're going to support you. Here are some resources, some volunteer opportunities. We take the time to really vet through meaningful volunteer opportunities that connect with issues that are important to us. So I'll give you an example. Just not too long ago, our Native American resource group had a volunteer event with an Earth arts program because that's important to them. That intersection of arts and earth was really important to them. So we had a virtual engagement with them to really bring that volunteerism to life and support them in building more community, more connection in a dispersed work environment where they had to reimagine everything. And we're getting new employees who may not have had the opportunity to meet people in person, or the grace of like, being in an office and getting coffee. You're like, oh, I haven't seen you before. What's your name? They could do that in these volunteerism opportunity. And we're making those connections to them. So rewind now, right? Like that desire to volunteer is still there. About just this year alone, 70 in-person volunteerism events have been curated by our community impact champions, right? I think there's something to be said about treating folks who love volunteering, who love curating volunteering opportunities as a culture group in and of itself, right? And so we've curated this group of leaders who are dispersed throughout the country, and especially in our hubs, they're curating events that folks can attend in person, and we're really supporting them in identifying nonprofit organizations that are in alignment with value. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who are in these locations. They know the need, they know the great work that's being done. So using them, supporting them in curating events and building those partnerships, and really leveraging our employee resource groups and our champions to get people to show up. Because again, we're curating events that they know that they're interested in. We're giving them the keys to really make what they want happen by providing the right support. And that has really helped our organization in terms of leaning into this dispersed work environment, to supporting our employee resource groups, creating and learning from this new lived reality and not sacrificing impact as we continue to figure out what this new way of working looks like for us, and also encouraging collaboration in a meaningful way. And what that looks like for us is we have the volunteerism event. The 70 that I just told you was just Goodera events. There's other 70 were the in-person. There's a lot, 17 events through Goodera that were related to our employee resource groups. But we're also doing engagements with our aligned nonprofit partner where, hey, let's connect, let's learn. So we have a beautiful partnership with the Museum of the African Diaspora, right? Production, goals. There's room for that, but there's something to be said about learning. So we work with our museum partner to bring in exhibits, learning exhibits to our organization where they're actually having a docent walk them through the exhibit. They're actually engaging in that intercultural learning. And what that does is get them curious enough to actually visit the museum in person and hopefully volunteer through that organization. I told you we have a modest giving. Curating our events to get that kind of engagement and our resources is really important. We offer $1,000 board reward if you serve on a board of a nonprofit, right? And what we also ask if you serve on a board is that you actually curate volunteer events, right? Again, that connection of rewarding, having impact, making use of our resources to have the most impact with a nonprofit. So that way they're coming back to us and actually saying yes when we want a volunteer event, or our people are coming to them and learning because they're getting resources through their rewards program, and they're actually getting folks to come in there and give them sweat equity, if you will. And in the process, our people are giving to aligned causes and feeling that much more connected to the community. I can go on, and I have gone on.
I know I could talk about this all day. I think what you're spelling out here just demonstrates the value of having a diverse portfolio with your volunteering, especially in a post-COVID era, because you can have all the amazing in-person events you want. You can have your super deep projects like what you've shared, what Isis and Grace have shared, that are really specific, really local, but you do still have employees like, hey, I'm a virtual employee. Like me going into a place and going into a thing is the whole thing. Like I don't even have a car anymore, so I got to get an Uber. There's all these little like cognitive and logistical switches for people who have adapted to living and working fully remote. And by having those virtual opportunities too, you're really saying to them like, hey, we'll meet you where you are. And everybody's got an accessible, approachable way to participate in what they care about. Love that.
I love to add one more thing to what you just said in
Yeah,
terms of asynchronous volunteerism. That's really important because not everyone has the kind of time, like an hour or so to go there. And that's something
right
we've
at
really
once.
been
Yeah.
portfolio on and is really key to engagement because you need to break it up. And that often can sacrifice or feel like a challenge on impact, but we're really like pushing ourselves to find that middle ground of giving asynchronous opportunity that provides meaningful impact in the long run. And our partnership with the Adler Planetarium that allows our employees to map out and those maps get used in scientific research has really been a win for us.
Oh, that sounds
Oh,
so.
that's the like helping with the like AI algorithm for
Various from like tree
space
addition
things.
to baby noises, a multitude of stuff that really is resource and useful to the scientists that are doing that kind of research, and really allows our folks to put in 15 minutes here, 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes there, and in the long term we're actually making really big impact that's being used by the communities not only throughout the country but throughout the world.
What is that
Yeah,
partner?
it's such a great call out.
Adler Planetarium, and I can share more information with you, Isis, but
Yes,
the
please.
Adler Planetarium.
That sounds so fun. My little nerd heart just exploded a little.
Grace, I want to pass it to you too to share more about volunteerism and how that's impacted your ERGs.
Yeah. Everyone pretty much covered what I was going to say, but something I will note is I think the poll said about 50% didn't rarely engage volunteering with ERG. So I'm not an ERGDA manager. I work specifically for the Atlassian Foundation. So I work on the social impact team enabling ERGs to give back. So we were new to partnering with ERGs more officially in the last 2 quarters. And with the engagement of using, resources like Goodera, providing funding. So not ERGs don't always have a lot of funding. So how do we partner on the foundation to provide more resources like 2x matching for a fundraiser? Or do we cover certain like Goodera events? So those are the things that we get creative with. Another thing is we have 2 big campaigns on the foundation side a year. So we have the Atlassian Week of Good. It's a week of volunteering throughout December. And then we have May It Forward. It's a play on words on Pay It Forward. And we have the entire company engage in volunteering. And I believe over 90% of volunteers they organize their own events in our most recent May It Forward campaign. But what we do is how do we use these vehicles for ERGs, right? So letting ERGs know we have Week of Good coming up, we have May It Forward. Let's plug in an ERG volunteering event fundraiser so that you also have visibility and to the whole company. So just engaging our ERGs in the last 2 quarters, we actually had 430 Atlassians from ERGs participate, whether it was a virtual event, in-person fundraiser, and then I believe they also raised over $25,000. So that was like a mix of providing those resources, giving them the vehicles for participating in our campaigns, and also if they don't have funding, working with our budget and seeing how we can provide for the ERGs. So that I think is the best way, is to just kind of see where the ERGs are at and meeting them where they're at, especially if they have low engagement, like starting small, right? We don't have to do like 7 events in a year. How do we just start with 1 and kind of compound on that?
Thank you. That's such a valuable perspective coming from outside, like the core ERG or DEIB team, but speaking to how Atlassian supports those people directly from the foundation. Love that. Thank you, Grace.
Of course.
Well, to wrap us up today, I want to give you all an opportunity to share some best practices around what we know to be some of the biggest enablers of ERGs. So these were, of course, some of the ones that we've talked about when we were preparing for this. Seamless tech for me is an easy go-to. I think I've worked at a CSR tech or services organization for a very long time. So I've seen the value in having, whether it's, Goodera for your volunteering and making that seamless, or one of our partners that we work with for like your giving and volunteering platform, but also just like, what are the tools that you're putting in front of your ERGs? Do they use a SharePoint? Do they use Teams? Do they use Slack? Giving them the access to tech to make what doesn't have to be difficult easy, so that they can focus on the more difficult concepts that are inherently going to continue to be difficult in the core work that they do. Asias, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these really speak to you?
Yeah, thank you for that. Nonprofit engagement, and I've been talking a little bit about this as we've been in conversation for the last hour or so. But that's really important to me, and that's really important to me, particularly as an organization that has a modest grant budget, if you will, but really fully recognizes that our people are a resource that could really benefit our nonprofits, right? And so for me, the nonprofit engagement becomes important because there's a multitudes of ways that you can engage with a nonprofit beyond just giving and a grant. But I also think about pro bono engagement and really looking at skills-based volunteerism. And I also think about, what does it look like to center the nonprofit, to center the communities and causes, as opposed to the engagement of our employees, right? And I think being really aware, critical of that becomes really important. So that way we're not really engaging our nonprofits from this extractionist space, but really partnering with them and helping drive their causes. And I dare to say that when we're thinking about our employee resource groups, oftentimes there's a shared identity, a shared experience, a shared passion with the nonprofit engagement. And so they're very much paying attention how you treat the nonprofit. And the nonprofit is also looking at, how do you treat your employees, particularly employees that might be their constituents in many ways, right? And I think being mindful of that and making sure that you are creating and maintaining the relationship in a way that you're sending reciprocity and really driving impact becomes key. And I often find doing that allows you to deepen impact and get that much more engagement on the part of your employees, and particularly employee resource groups.
I love that extractionist term. I'm going to start using that in my regular vernacular more often. Such an important call out of not just what are we getting from them, but how are we investing back into them, and how is it reciprocal? It's a great point. Isis, you want to share what stands out to you?
First, I just want to give kudos to Sias. Love that. I'm not even going to touch nonprofit because he really ate everything was beautifully said. When it comes to driving engagement, I think a lot of these really speak to me. Seamless tech, I think, is one that just popped into my head only because we just implemented a small change with our tech, was just having a Slack bot, right? And it seems very silly and whatever, but like that initial, so if you enter, let's say, our Black at Z channel, it now a Slack bot will come up, say, hey, it takes you to where your resources are. It asks you questions about where you like why you joined. So it allows them to collect data without having to do anything. It's just automated. And so it automatically welcomes that person. But like having those little things that engages with someone as soon as they get into the channel, it tells them about the group when they meet, it gives them guidance, and it asks them for information. So it gives us the ability to track data, was a game changer. It's the one less thing our leads have to do, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
that is really speaking to me. Leadership alignment, can't say enough about that, because obviously having your leaders show up to these things, talk about our ERGs, is going to send a signal to the company that this is something that is important to leadership, it's important, and it should be prioritized. And one thing all of our ERGs have executive sponsors. Here's a small little hack that I always share with people: get really close to their EAs. Um, Building relationships with the leaders' EAs was a game changer for me. They hold the power. Like, little known secret is their EAs hold all the power. They hold that schedule. And so when I really want to like get time with the executives, which is hard to do, obviously you're going to be working with their EAs, but building a relationship with them is just a game changer,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to give you a little bit more access. They're going to tell you what you need to know. They're going to be that inside person that you need. So building strong relationships with the EAs, amazing. I love it so much. And then of course, like calendar planning, just get ahead of it. We are starting to build that muscle of like getting ahead of planning for the year. And it's hard to do when you're already balancing your day job, right? But having that calendar planning session with your project manager, which is program manager, and your ERGs, is a game changer. So it's one less thing they have to think about down the road. They already have a little bit of a plan in place. And last thing I'll say, sorry, I'm just going at it. Internal communication, keep it consistent. I can't say enough about consistency. That is a huge one. Having a comms lead, which we have it structured with our ERGs, they have a comms lead. So there's one person who's really tasked. I mean, everyone gets involved with the communication, but having a thoughtful strategy around how and the frequency of communicating with your folks in your channels is huge. People want that consistency, and just throw stuff out there. See what works, see what doesn't work. Just keep going, but make sure
A
that you're
trust builder.
it's a trust builder, exactly, and it helps people know that this is a space they can come and talk. But if it's quiet sometimes, or it's going off in very different directions, that engagement is going to drop. So I would just say consistency, 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 and I will shut up now.
Love it.
Over to Grace.
Yeah, Grace, what do you think?
Plus one to what everyone said. I think,
Right?
yeah, no, literally. But I think the main thing for me is like if your organization is separate, like the DEI is separate from community social impact. It doesn't seem like the case for our other panelists. But if your
Mm-hmm.
company is separate, I would say doing all of this alongside your partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would look like your nonprofit partner, but also lean on the social impact team. They're here to help you. I also do like basically the global chairs, the ERG chairs, they're actually my clients. I kind of see them as my clients. So how am I providing them a white glove experience so that they're able to use volunteering and giving part of their programming and doing all of that, right? So seamless tech experience, that's Goodera for us right now, right? ERG chairs are busy. They're ERG chairs, they have their day jobs, plus they might integrate volunteering. I actually have been pointing them to Goodera. I'm like, here it is. You just
Thanks.
sign up. Yeah, you sign up. And then if you have more questions, follow up with me. And then same thing with like calendar planning, internal communication, like lean on that program manager, as Isis said. And that could be that program manager within your DIB team, or even someone in your social impact team. We're here to help. We also have champions, right? We have volunteer local champions within our foundation. So sometimes what we do is we connect those champions to the ERG chairs. So I think it kind of wraps up all of it, but using that partnership and leveraging that partnership.
And a total gem in what you said there was that client piece. I think I'm a little biased on that because I've been in a client-facing role basically my entire adult life. But when
Okay.
you turn that internally and you start to think of the people that you work with as like Isis said, that relationship building, that's when you can grow your program so much faster. You can bring people along. Like, we are all captains of change and change management. And when you're truly building relationships and thinking of your internal stakeholders as your clients, it really sets you up well, and it sets them up well to truly hear you and understand what you need.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
If they have Yeah, I love it because if they have a question, I literally am like, let's go on a huddle, let's do it. Like, how do I support you and make this happen for you, whether it is finding budget or putting you on the calendar. So yeah, totally. The internal stakeholder management is like a big piece.
Yeah, and shameless plug, we love Goodera. Like y'all have actually really helped with our calendar planning. It just we know we can just slot you all into it, like, and it's just been such a game changer, and it takes so much work off of our plate. So shout out, really love y'all for that.
Yeah, shout out, especially the catalogs y'all put together. I
Oh,
usually
so
put
good.
right. I give them the catalog. I was like, here it is. If there's
Pick
something you
one.
like, yeah, you pick one. It's super easy. They got it for you.
I love it. So
I'm totally taking a snippet of this and sharing it with our catalog team. That's going to mean so much to them. Thank you.
I love the
really.
catalogs.
Well, thank you all so much for being here and sharing your expertise. I love like the diverse backgrounds you all have for your companies. We had a wonderful, well-rounded conversation to help people learn what they can do next. Everybody here, we'll send out the deck. We'll send out some Q&A responses. And just thank you to you all again for joining. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.